Hey guys, so welcome back to another video. As you might know, I recently bought a guitar and I have been making my first steps into it. But today, I would like us to talk about my domain, physics, but this time applied to musical instruments, in particular the guitar. As you might know, physics is present everywhere around us and it's also present inside a guitar. So let's explore the physics of a guitar. So the first thing to mention here is that when you pluck a string, say D, what I'm actually doing is that I'm transferring energy into that string, and this energy creates a vibration. The vibration of the string is confined between the ends, the tight ends of the string, and it creates a wave that is reflected back and forth between these two tight ends. That wave is known as a stationary or a standing wave. On this stationary wave, there are points that never vibrate. We call those nodes. So they are basically the points on the tight ends. And there are points that always vibrate with maximum displacement, if we can say so. And those points, for the basic mode, if you want, that point is the middle of the string. It vibrates with maximum displacement. Now, depending on, the strength at which you're going to pluck the string, you can unlock what is known as modes of vibrations. There can be several modes, and this creates, if you want, higher order notes. Okay, so essentially these vibrations are actually following stationary waves, and they can be modes or vibrations. So the next thing that might be interesting to point here is what actually defines the sound that you might perceive. And here there are essentially three characteristics of every sound, like three things that define any sound that you might hear. It works for any musical instrument, and it's also the case for a guitar. So the first sound property here is known as the amplitude. The amplitude here refers to the maximum vibration, okay, that a point on a string is going to have. And as you might maybe guess, this vibration is linked to the strength at which you're going to strum, at which you're going to pluck the string. So if I pick a given string, if I pluck it, higher or stronger, I can see that, it's louder. And if I pluck it just very lightly, as you can see, then the sound is really low, and we say the amplitude is small. So the amplitude defines the loudness. The higher the amplitude, the higher the loudness of the sound. The lower the amplitude, the lower the loudness of the sound. Okay? Now, the second point that defines, that characterizes any sound is the frequency or the pitch. The pitch refers to, the sharpness of any note that you can hear. And there are several factors that can affect the pitch of a sound. Three of them in particular. You have the length of the string, you have the mass of the string, and you have the tension of the string. Let's explore them one by one. Beginning with the length, you would notice that here they all have the same length, and when I pluck a string, let's say I pluck the D string, you can notice that it plays with a certain sound. Okay, so if I reduce the length, say I block it here and I pluck it again, you'd notice that the frequency increases. If I even reduce it further, you notice that it increases, and so on and so forth. That's it. As you decrease the length, the pitch increases, it becomes sharper. Moving to the next factor that affects the pitch, we have the mass of the string. So if you look at these 6 strings of my acoustic guitar, you notice that the most massive is actually the D, and the least massive is the E string over here. Now, you might tell yourself, if I have an object that weighs a lot and I try to make it vibrate, it's very difficult. So tell yourself that for a given energy that you are going to apply to the strings, the heaviest one, so the more massive one, is going to vibrate slowly compared to the other ones. So if I pluck, let's say, all of these strings, okay, you would notice that the D string vibrates the slowest, so it has the lowest of all the pitches, whereas the E down here, you can hear it for just a tiny pluck, it's very sharp. So that's it for the mass. So the last factor that affects, if you want, the pitch of any note is the tension in the string. So here, realize that we have knobs, and these knobs actually help us to adjust the tension in the string. So suppose I pick the E string over here. Notice how it sounds. So if I tighten the knobs, notice what happens. Notice that it increases, it becomes really sharp. And if I loosen it, yeah, you notice how it changes. So that's how adjusting the tension can affect the frequency of your sound. If the more your string is tensed, the higher the frequency, and vice versa. So the last thing that determines, that characterizes any sound is known as the timbre. So the timbre, if you want, is related to the tone. It's that thing that helps you distinguish, let's say, a piano from a violin or a guitar without even having to look at the instruments. So if someone is playing a piano somewhere around you, even without looking at it, you can say, oh, that's a piano. If someone is playing a guitar, you can say, oh, that's a guitar, and so on. So that's known as the timbre. And so when you combine all of these, you get harmonious sounds, you get good music. Demonstration. And that's it. Is physics not beautiful? I'm sure you find it beautiful. Make sure you smash that subscribe button. It helps the channel grow and also motivates me to talk about other physics aspects. See you in the next video.